member of Commerce and Industry, also a member of U.S. African Trade Council, also a member of Nigeria American Chamber of Commerce, and CEO of Success Edge International. The purpose of this program is basically to give us highlights, solutions to what seems to be problematic to a sector. And I usually want to say that, in any sector you are, you are bound to be challenges. And I keep on telling people that it's only challenge that can make you a champion. Okay? Many failures can result into success. So today we'll be talking about common challenges that exporters, come along with, and how do you resolve some of those challenges. The more you're able to overcome these challenges, the better you are. Like we come on telling people, if there's any sector that is, you can make it, it's export. And as long as people are doing it and they are having success, the question you need to ask is how come? So how it is done and how to be accomplished is what we are here to discuss today. And I want to believe that at the end of today's, we'll have a cause to really, have something with us to grab. So now, but have you ever heard of the phrase, in shipping, nothing is guaranteed? If you have, they are not entirely wrong, but knowing most of the times that are not fully guaranteed can help you create procedure. Okay, things that are not actually guaranteed at times can help you to create procedure and structures to provide the most guarantee both for yourself and your client. Now, in international trade industry, you may highly be to be very candid, international trade is a very highly lucrative business. Okay, but the basic thing that you need to learn the rope. You actually need to learn the rope. Okay, and you can be successfully chart a course for yourself. Okay, and once this is done, rest assured that you make some good money out of it. But not knowing some key things that can cause you to lose investment, whether you are trading from Nigeria, or you are trading from Asia, you are trading from Europe, or America, or Africa, other parts of the world. There are some things you just need to know so that you can succeed. Now, what I'm here to do today is to provide, solutions. What are the problems? What do you do to actually solve those problems? Now, to help you know some unexpected challenges you might be facing when shipping commodities, I'm going to tell you some challenges and how you are going to mitigate some of those challenges. Number one, extended or cancelled vessel arrival and departure time. Extended or cancelled vessel arrival and departure time. Shipping timeline are usually given by the shipping line when booking is first made. But the reality is, even if you manage to get the container loaded, okay, and moved to the port the same day, which is a bit very challenging. I can say that you can load a container and basically you can get to where it's going. I see that in the port of Florida in the United States. Very fantastic place, okay? And but Nigeria at times it may not be like that. You cannot load a container and move to the port the same day, okay? But it's highly likely. There is no guarantee that your cargo can still sail with the vessel, So vessel arrival time change a lot, okay? Sometimes the vessel expected to arrive could cancel its arrival together, causing an enlong waiting time for the exporter, as a new vessel would have to be reassigned and waiting will still start all over again. So what that means is that to mitigate that particular challenges, always ensure you make your clients understand that the moment the goods are inside the port, you cannot control the timeline of the vessel. Please, very important. These are very salient things that make a lot of people fail and they don't really understand what the dynamics of this profession is. Okay, so you cannot control the timeline of the vessel arrival and departure, as it is entirely in the hands of the custom officer and the shipping line. Please take note. Okay, the second one is some of the challenges also means that increased terminal charges if container weight is lower or higher than declared value. I think sincerity is the roadmap for anybody that wants to succeed in this sector. Now, this is one of the most unexpected events that many exporters experience at the same time. Your weight and standardized goods, load them in a shipping container and move them into the port, only to get a message to you that your cargo weight is either over declared or under declared, and as such you are to pay what you call VGM, that is verified gross mass charge, or your container will not be loaded on board in that vessel. Okay, so what that means that in some cases you'll be requested to take out the container to reduce the weight, and that will cost you a lot of money. So please just make sure that you don't overload what is required. Okay, now to be safe, after using standardized digital scale, okay, to be safe, using the standardized gauging to weigh the goods, less the scale at the port loading terminal is to reweigh the goods again, so that the terminal will recognize used their own scale and will less the charge. So what that implies then is that these are basically challenges that one really need to, to have some sufficient things to get done. Make sure it's very important that when you're actually loading, your this is not actually overloaded. Make sure that you are sincere with what you load. Don't make unnecessary pressure to be on you. And one of the challenges that actually most people really meet is that in terms of not being available at the time when they are loading the container. For example, when they are loading cashew, you need to be available, because the tendency is always that some of those people, they know that you are making a lot of money, and the knowledge you have, they don't have. So they are always very, they are not really very happy. They may actually be working with you. So always make sure that basically as you always are available there, because 20 tons can become 16 tons. Okay, 30 tons, 21 tons can become 15 tons. So the way to mitigate the challenge is that if you know you will not be available on site, make sure you get people who actually will assist you, train people that will assist you to be on that particular timeline, so that there will be no, this issue of challenges. Then always make sure that you have experienced people, train them. You can send them to, don't be afraid that maybe when after you might have trained them, they will go off, or they will leave their services. Don't always think that way. Just make sure that you train them and leave the rest to the hand of God to see what actually can come out of the whole deal. Now, another very important challenge is that a lot of people have is not meeting up specification. Okay, once specification is not made, it's already very, very challenging. Okay, because the end product will be that is either when you export the particular commodity, the buyer will reject it, and apart from the fact that it's being rejected, you also discover that in the land of the importer, you are requested to actually come and they will ask you to also come and pay for the damage of that particular commodity. So the basic things are always make sure that you are always in tune, okay? Always in tune with what you are doing, and don't actually have issues, so that these issues can always be resolved at all time. Number 3, demurrage in the event that container remains in the terminal for long. Okay, in some cases, many could cause a shipping container to remain in the port for a long period of time. This could, range from cancelled contracts to miscellaneous delay on you and your agent part, customs issue, and many more. If container remains at the origin or destination port for longer than stipulated time, you will start to incur delay, demurrage costs, and such. Your experience will start to grow quickly. Before moving your container into the port, ensure you are 100% certain that you are ready to ship the consignment, else it will incur demurrage. Okay, it could do what? Incur demurrage. So to avoid that, what do? Very simple. That, all you need to do to ensure that, make sure that you have a target time, make sure that the ship is coming on board before you start making, before you put things in place. Number 4, charge for damaged container. Charge for damaged container. When you pick a shipping container to load products into, you are literally renting the container from the shipping line, and will be extended to take good care of it if the container end up damaged. Okay, why in your care you are required to pay for it, and that could cost thousands of dollars. One solution is to always take out insurance and ensure that the insurance policy covers just the goods in the container, and also dot of the container itself. So make sure that even the container you are receiving, make sure you look at it very well. If it's a damaged container, make sure you reject it. Okay, and when you open the container, enter inside the container, make sure there is no hole in it, because when there is hole, once it's rain on the high sea, could damage the commodity in place. So please make sure this is also very important. Shipping to an inland container port at the destination point. Now, this is a huge mistake. A lot of people make this kind of mistake, and it costs them their investment. Some clients will request that you don't just ship to a seaport in their country, but to an inland container depot, okay, which is usually called ICD. Okay, why there is no problem with this? Most exporters fail to realize the shipping to an inland cargo depot will mean that they have to cover the cost of the destination inland transportation charge of the container to the depot. First, it's best to only agree to a ship to a seaport or nothing beyond it. If you must agree to a ship, that is, you want to use an inland method, dry shipping method, that is ICD, okay, then you make sure you get a full transportation charge cost for the consignment from the original port to the ICD. Okay, ensure that the cost is booked for at least 45 days. Make sure the cost is booked at least for 45 days from the quota it's given, and that pass on the transport charges into the cost of the. Now, how do you mitigate that particular challenges? If the buyer insists that the transportation charges are too high, tell them that you either go for FOB, that is free on board, okay, or CIF, that is cost insurance freight. Tell them that if that is too expensive, they can go for either of them, because that is less cumbersome. Now, if the buyer also refuses any of this, it's better you leave the transaction. It's better you do what? It's better you leave the transaction, or you risk losing in the bulk of your investment. Number 6, sudden ban on the goods, sudden ban on the export of goods already stuffed into a container. These are things happen in Nigeria sometime, sometimes last year. A lot of people, they have loaded the container, and they now discover that government will put a restriction like that of charcoal. Now, this happened a lot all over the world. So it's not only, certain to that of Nigeria, but it's happening a lot all over the world, and can be devastating to an exporter. Sometimes you could have an agreement with a buyer, okay, and spend so much money procuring the commodity. When it's time to move them to the port for shipping, then the local law is now suddenly passed a ban on that particular commodity. Then the question is that commodity with an immediate effect, or the country you are shipping to pass a law banning the particular commodity from your country. For instance, a dangerous commodity to export from Nigeria is, some can be very dangerous, maybe they are prohibited. For example, that of charcoal, they are always expected to, they can bind them and unbind them, for certain reason, they are not meeting up to the standard. It is important that you might mitigate the risk by always taking out an export credit insurance. Now, one of these way to actually have a problem with that, maybe a government policy can just suddenly come up, and you discover that at the end of the day, the product that you have stopped to export is to be exported, is having some challenges. What you need to do is to get what you call export credit insurance to protect all forms of political or agreements or payment or currency risk, so that if you fall victim to something like this, you can and at least always retrieve your investment. Number 7, okay, paying sea freight in US dollar despite rising inflation in the country of origin. Dollar is regarded as an international currency. In paying the freight, negotiate to pay the freight cost entirely in your local currency. To avoid this problem, negotiate the sea freight in your local currency at the beginning, so that you are not caught in inflation web. Okay, that could make you to lose quite a lot of money. Okay, second to the last challenges you may face: elongate time in withdrawing your FX inflow at reasonable price. In Nigeria, the central bank policy that all export inflow into the country cannot be withdrawn from your bank account it was paying to, but will only either be used by the exporter if they have a valid import license to procure commodities from outside the country, or be sold to an importer who have a valid document with the bank regarding an import transaction and is sold by the exporters to the bank at the prevailing rates on the I and E window. Now, the challenge now is that the black market rate has gone up. The black market as of today is about $5.90 to $1, okay, and the prevailing bank, okay, and bank is now selling them for about $4 something to $1. So then it means that an exporter looking, to sell about $100,000 will actually be having less than almost 9 million. Okay, to avoid this, most exporters use the USD inflow, spend a lot of their time searching for importers with valid transaction in a bank. Also, looking for forex to buy at the official I and E window price. Okay, so why they pay the difference between the black market, separating it? This works because the FX is scarce for importer, and they're always willing to negotiate with exporter as long as they can buy it at a reasonable lower than the black market. The last on the list for today is not making it clear on who to cover destination charges. Okay, you should be able to determine that between an importer or an exporter. Okay, so just as decided in the ISD session of the many importers fail to agree on whose responsibility is for the destination charges. As a result, some importer would want to pin the charges on them. It is important that as an exporter, you must clearly state and agree to which Incoterms rules you are working on the transaction, and must also clearly state on the contract that you are only responsible to the local charges, while the buyer is responsible for all the destination whatever it is. So like I said earlier on, we'll be having our program tomorrow. For more details on some of these things that we've highlighted today, more clarity will be given to them in our program tomorrow. We're having a seminar tomorrow at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce Conference.